3 more topics, 2 more segments. This, the penultimate segment of Implicit Bias. Did I say penultimate segment of? Yeah.
I wasn't going to
that
say
was bad.
Whoa.
That was bad.
Who's drunk on now? Huh? Who's drunk on now?
meat
I'm
kettle.
I'm going fast, and yeah, it happened.
You're playing
Annunciation's
fast
a
and
thing.
loose here.
Annunciation is a thing. Fast and loose. Oh man, there's so many bad places I could go with that, and I'm just not. All right, so we've got 2 more segments, 3 more topics. We were starting to talk aliens in the last segment. This
I don't have the hair for that. Aliens.
I'm not saying it's aliens, but it's aliens.
Oh, look, let me sum up the aliens topic just
Yeah,
real quick so
go
we
ahead.
can move on. Nancy Mace was questioning somebody, and as usual, the guy said, I can't talk about that. But she said, is it true that you discovered biologics at some of these sites, which is something non-human biological material?
Well, it's a living or dead biological
correct.
entity.
And he was able to answer yes. So basically what that tells us is Roswell happened. They found bodies as well as material from a unknown spaceship, and they've just been lying to us for the last 12 decades.
All right.
As usual.
Ring the bell.
Yeah, but you
So
don't
hold
know.
on, let's do some math
Yeah,
real
but
quick.
you don't know if it was aliens. It could have been like a coyote. It could have been a dead coyote.
Okay, so
I
let's
mean,
do some
you know.
math real quick. Grant, you just said the last 12 decades.
Look, don't
So
be picky.
so we're gonna go back to 1900.
Wait,
The Aztec-
so
Going around
drunk.
then too.
1904,
Aztecs have-
probably, and that's the crazy part.
Well,
So
the Aztecs
Drunko
have
has
images.
moved now again.
The Aztecs have images of helicopters. You know, the Bible talks about chariots.
Egyptians
Yep,
had
chariots of
images,
fire.
yeah.
Right, so a chariot of fire, we talk about chariots of fire, angels, all that would be like, if we look at it now and they're like, well, a chariot of fire, well, that might be a UFO. This might be not just interstellar, but interdimensional.
I think that's the big call out
And
about
that's
this,
what I get curious about.
which is we are starting to hear, and even Tucker Carlson has gotten into this conversation where he actually said, the more I read, the more people I talk to, the more I discuss, the more I'm afraid that these are not interplanetary issues. These are interdimensional issues. And what we think about as demons
What
would be aliens.
What-
right?
what
I
would
mean,
be the
technically
response?
a demon would be alien
Yeah.
to this realm, this planet.
Well, what would the response be if we find out that these biological beings had 7 set of wings and are covered in eyeballs?
Isn't
That's a
that
description that one
an angel?
Yes. So like, there's so much that can go on with this, and then at that point, well, aren't we just proving faith?
Ultimately, that's where I go with this. And ultimately, if you look at, so if you've ever read, and I can't remember the author's name, but Charity of the Gods, he's still alive. He wrote it.
Eric von Däniken.
Yes, Eric von Däniken. Thank you. If you've ever read Charity of the Gods, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
If you've ever looked at some locations, like I believe Punapunku or Pumapunku is the pronunciation in South America. If you look at drawings in Mexico and Central America, and then look at Egyptian hieroglyphs, according to our archaeologist, there is no way that people had the technology to do what they did, number one. Number two, to communicate those same images over thousands of miles. They never
Then the next-
cohabitated in any way, shape, or form.
You look at the Egyptian and the Maya,
Pyramids.
but the pyramid, they both had pyramids. Why? They're thousands of miles apart. They still, they come up with these things on how they move these tons and tons of stone. It doesn't make sense. We would have a hard time doing that now.
To go further down a rabbit hole, let's say that they end up talking about the Incans, the Mayans, the Egyptians. What about Memphis and the Grand Canyon?
So there's a whole rabbit hole about what has been found in the Grand Canyon and allegedly finding Egyptian treasure in the Grand Canyon, which is a whole, but that also brings us to,
That's a whole nother show.
okay, no, this is all a whole nother show, and we're going to tease this, and we'll do this one show. We'll go full on archaeology.
Jones.
We'll go archaeology conspiracy theorist. I was trying to create a word. It
Yeah,
didn't
we'll
work.
wear leather.
Astrological as well, because they say the configuration of the pyramids does have astrological ties. as
So,
well.
so, but here's the deal. Does this tie into the Kandahar giant conversation? Because if you're talking about moving really large blocks and you're talking about the ability to build things that we don't have the scale to deal with, but maybe there are questions about, and man, okay, this is a real deep rabbit hole. We're going to talk about this and we're going to get out of it because it's too deep, is the reason we went to war in Iraq because of the Tomb of Gilgamesh. Right? Because of
Now we're
Gilgamesh.
talking
I mean,
Euphrates,
there's
the Tigris.
yeah, there's a whole nother discussion. Let's do the noble thing and pull out of that discussion. And let's dive into.
Now you're going to talk about protests.
Yeah, no, we're not going protest just yet. We're going to, how do we know that those who are in the club that we're not a part of, how do we know that they're upset? How do we know that they're on the ropes? Caleb, you actually sent this story over, and I'm going to let you dive into this. I'm going to give the headline of this. We have talked about on this show that polls are made up, they are propaganda for a pretty obvious reason, because they can convince you of the outcome that you then begin to expect. Until it became legal to bet on election outcomes. Polymarket was one of the biggest election betting websites. And Caleb, what happened today to some poor kid?
What, 26 years old was the CEO?
Yeah, he's young.
Rated, everything seized. I mean, they predicted the election almost to a T. They predicted Biden stepping aside and so many other things. And now all of a sudden, all of their assets are seized. His home is seized. And everything under the sun that he possessed is seized by none other than the FBI.
I think you spell that EFFBEEEYE, right? I mean, the FBI. Yeah, I mean, that's who did it. And let's face it, the FBI, I can't speak for every FBI agent in the country. What I know is this. The top of that tree is rotten.
Oh, God.
It is rotten, and I hope that it hasn't infiltrated every leaf on the tree.
You know,
Christopher Wray.
Yeah, and what's crazy is Christopher Wray was appointed by Trump.
He was.
You know, that was after Comey. He took over, and he started out good, but it's not gone good for
He's
him
been
since.
so much worse than Comey.
Power
Oh, yeah.
corrupts, absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
The
evidently.
power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
And
evidently it's worked
the
with him.
FBI is full. The FBI, the CIA, all these other branches.
And how
there's a
far
ton of power
down? Now,
there.
the key is how far down in that tree do you need a cut before you start getting to good wood? You know, because the agents, the street agents, dude, I don't have any problem with most of those guys. They're just out making a living. But management is a problem.
Agreed. And, you know, Renee, it's a really good question about how far down do you have to go, because I'm kind of the belief, I'm of the opinion that the FBI has become really nothing more than the enforcement arm of the Democratic Party. That's ultimately what it looks like. Think about who's been prosecuted by the FBI. Go back to James Comey. James Comey, and I'm going to quote him here. James Comey said, "We know that there are multiple classified emails, thousands of classified emails on the server. It is against the law, but no reasonable prosecutor would actually prosecute it, so we're going to let it go." That's not what the FBI is there for, right? The FBI is not there to make DOJ decisions. They're there to say, this is the evidence. Y'all go prosecute. You tell us what you need, and we'll go see if it's there. Not we'll find it.
Yeah, they gather the facts,
Well, they
put it there,
They
and then the judicial
gather
branch.
the evidence.
Gather. You're right, evidence. And then the judicial branch does its job and prosecutes or doesn't and says there's not enough evidentiary fact there.
So Walker gave us the finger.
Yeah.
I think actually Walker gave you the finger, Grant, specifically.
That's okay.
We're going to take the 1 minute. We're going to come back. And this might be the most fun segment we have on implicit bias in a year. Because we're going to talk about people who are protesting something, and the way they're doing it is proving that the fact that they're protesting is about the IQ. Man, this goes below turnip. What's below the IQ of a turnip? We'll figure out. We'll figure it out on implicit bias when we come back.